For over 2,000 years, Jews were persecuted almost everywhere they lived. There was one remarkable exception, India. Not only were Jews safe there, they were given equal rights, built synagogues, and thrived. Today's guest was born into that community and now lives in Israel. She says she's too Indian for Israelis and too Israeli for Indians. Revital Moses, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me. This is such a great intro.
Thank you. So paint me a picture. What did a normal day look like growing up Jewish in India?
Wow. So for some reason, I mean, it sounds very, very, I think for people who don't understand who Indian Jews are and where they come from, how life would look like, let me burst the bubble. It is like how a regular Indian would live like in India. It is as regular as that. The only difference was I grew up with people around me being very curious about where I come from and very well accepted by the community, because I know a lot of the Jews living in the diaspora were not accepted with open arms. So I grew up with a lot of love, respect, but a lot of curiosity. So I had to answer so many questions. And I was also told by every second person that, oh my gosh, you're my first Indian Jewish friend. And also in Israel for some reason. But life was amazing. Lucky for me, I grew up in a city called Thane, which is very close to Mumbai. Consider that city as the Ramat Gan of Israel, but it's just 30 kilometers from Mumbai. But I lived in and around the synagogue in Thane, and we were surrounded by a lot of Jewish families around. So my parents, I think it also depends on your upbringing, but my parents made sure that we were actively involved in the community. And time to time, we would go for Shabbat prayers and major chagim we would celebrate in the synagogue. And I was lucky to be raised with Indian Jewish cousins. So that was fun. And for every Shabbat dinner, had Indian food. So for somebody who would have salmon and salad, we would have chicken curry, rice, and chapati.
Wow.
And I grew up with learning two Indian languages because, I mean, it depends where you live, right? If you're from Mumbai or Thane, you grow up speaking Marathi, which is the regional language, or Hindi, which is one of the 22 official languages, because Hindi is widely spoken. But if you're from South India, you grew up speaking Malayalam. So it depends which city and region you grew up in. And I grew up in the Bene Israeli community. It is still exists, very much thriving, but we are less than 4,000 Jews left in India right now. I'm in Israel, but I still speak as us because I still belong to the community.
So when did you first realize that your family was different than those around you?
I think when you go to school and people talk about the holidays, like there's Diwali, there's Holi, there's these all Indian holidays. And then I would say, like we have Rosh Hashanah and we have Purim. And then these questions would come up. Like, what do you mean? What are these holidays? Are you Christian? Because they would often get confused. Are Christians and Jews the same? Because, I mean, in weddings, I see the bride wearing a white gown. Doesn't that mean you guys are the same, right? And they would often ask, like, does your God have a name? Because Hindu gods have names and they have pictures of how they look like. I didn't have an answer. So for me, I mean, of course, we're like, we don't know what he looks like and we also have one God. And like in Hinduism, they also believe in like oneness, but they have different manifestations and different like gods of like wealth and happiness and, strength and stuff like that. So it was a little bit confusing and I felt like I had to explain myself so many times. But over time, I realized that foundationally and fundamentally, I am different and I accepted the fact that I would have to explain myself for the rest of my life. And I was okay with it. But I think to make it easier for them, I would invite them for Shabbat dinners and Purim celebrations and Hanukkah. So they would get like a taste of what it is to be Jewish. So these are some of the experiences I had.
It sounds like they put Judaism and Christianity together. But how did you explain it to the people that didn't ever hear about Judaism? How did you explain Judaism to them? Or did you explain little aspects of it?
I think like me as a child, my like go-to answer would be, Jews were the first one to come. And then came like, Islam and Christianity. That was my go-to answer. And then I had to give an example. For example, in India, there are different religions as well, right? There's Sikhism, there's Hinduism, there's Jainism, there are Zoroastrians and stuff like that. So I had to explain the same thing. Like there are similarities, but fundamentally we're very different. Because when you give examples, I think it makes it easier for people to understand. And when you give like examples from their ecosystem, it makes it easier.
So you went to a regular Indian school.
So it really depends who you're asking. If you would ask my mother, she went to a Jewish school in Mumbai. But when she married my father, because we moved, we were living in Thane, which was like 30 kilometers from the school I was supposedly go to. It didn't make sense. So I went to a private school and there were a bunch of like Indian Jewish kids in different grades, but I was the only Jewish child in my grade. Yeah. So, but I mean, I had like seniors and juniors who were from the Indian Jewish community. So we would all like, when we had like morning assemblies and stuff, we would like, share stares or say hi and talk. We would really get excited to talk about, oh, what's happening for Chagim and stuff like that. But that's about it because I was like the only Jewish child. So I did get asked a lot of questions, but then also I was like, oh my gosh, you're like our only Jewish friend.
Did
Yeah.
the school ever teach about like Israel or the Holocaust or anything related to Jews?
Okay, so the syllabus has changed over time. We were taught like the syllabus was mostly about Indian history for obvious reasons because India went through a lot, right? India was, what do you say, conquered by the Mughal, then the British Empire. There was a story about how India got liberated from the British Empire, and then there was this post-colonial era. So India, like in schools, like especially in India, the focus on history is mostly about India. And of course, we have chapters that talk about World War II and World War I, but it's not as much as I learned when I came to Israel.
What parts of the Indian culture did you love without realizing how special they were?
That's a very good question. I would answer this question differently. If you would have asked me this question while I grew up, my answer would be I just love the fact that everything is so colorful and everybody is like eating at all times. You get invited to all festivals, regardless of your religion, doesn't matter. I mean, you can choose to go and not go, but I made it a point that if I was invited, I would just go because it was just, and I love the concept of community and well-being and shared culture. So I love that part. But now when when I came to Israel and I spoke to other people, I think what I liked the most was I wasn't forced into doing anything. I'll give you an example. For example, we as Jews don't believe in idol worship, but the Hindus do. So when I was invited to festivals, I wasn't forced to bow down in front of any of the idols. I would tell them it's like a no-no for us. So I would respect the fact if you would, respect that and, respect my boundaries. And they'd be like, yeah, we're cool. You don't have to. The fact that you came here means a lot to us. So I would, in fact, bring a box of sweets and flowers to honor. And I think that is something that I really enjoy. Because when I Israel, I realized a lot of the Jews were forced into doing a lot of these things. Like over the years, even in history, like if you go back in history, we were forced to do things that went against our religious beliefs and fundamental rights.
Exactly. So when you think of your childhood in India, like what memories come to you first? Anything specific?
Wow, there's so many memories because even when I live in Israel, like I feel so homesick even today. I've been in Israel for 6 years now, but yeah, there's India. I can't explain in words. I really invite people to go visit India. I know for people who live in America or the West in general, just get so either intimidated or just I don't know where to begin. But I'm like, if you're Jewish, your starting point should be Chabad house. Because I think that is, then you feel like, okay, this is my starting point, and then from there I can explore. But I feel like the festivals are so hardcore, people really take it seriously. Compared to Israel, like I have to say it, the celebrations in Israel are so mellow, but in India, regardless of it could be a Jewish festival or a Hindu festival, they would they would go all out. So many colors, there's food everywhere, everybody's partying like in a good way. There's like cultural exchange happening. I have not experienced that in Israel yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who were the Bnei Israel Jews, and how did your ancestors end up in India?
I wish there was social media back at the time, but
Yeah.
we didn't have that. So the story goes, and this is dated back to after the destruction of the Second Temple. 7 men and 7 women was sailing in a ship, and the ship wrecked near the western coast of India. And they just entered India, and the Indians or the Indian community welcomed them with open arms and said, "We have land, you can stay here. We'll make you a part of our community. No need to run away." They gave us respect, education, land, jobs. So a lot of my ancestors actually settled in small villages, eventually came to the bigger cities because that's where you can actually make a living, make more money, and more, commercial, more opportunities. And we never left because, number one, no anti-Semitism, right? I mean, there's a reason why India is held in high regard in the Jewish community, because India is one of the countries in the East where Jews were given shelter and were given equal opportunity and a lot of respect. And also, they gave the Indian Jewish community an opportunity to thrive. If you didn't know, I'll share some fun facts with you. First Miss India after India became independent in 1947, she was an Indian Jew. She has Baghdadi roots, but she came from the Indian Jewish community, the first Miss India. If you've heard about the Jewish General Jacob, he actually helped liberate Bangladesh from Pakistan. Bangladesh at the time was East Pakistan, but he was the person who actually led the strategy that helped Bangladesh liberate from Pakistan. And then I have somebody from my family who's doing quite well. Shout out to Isaac Uncle, won the title of Butterfly Man of India. You can look him up. Isaac Uncle, Isaac Kehimkar. He's my dad's first cousin. So when you have Jews contributing to the community, because we're small in number, we are like the minorities of the minority. So India gave us that stage. And also, I mean, if you talk about Baghdadi Jews coming to Mumbai for trade, right? The Sassoon family, they set up Mumbai to what it has become right now. Mumbai was not a happening place back at the time, 19th century, the 18th and 19th century, when David Sassoon, he's known as the Rothschild of the East, he came to India for trade. And because Mumbai was near the sea, it had a port, he built a port. It's called the David Sassoon Port, the Sassoon Port. He also built a school, which my mother went to. That is the school that I'm talking about. And then he built a hospital, a library, and a beautiful synagogue. It's called Knesset Eliyahu. I actually made a video about it. You should go check it out. But these are contributions of Jews that India was like, oh my gosh, like they're small in number, but they have bigger contributions. Yeah. So I think that's why, in general, even if thank God India gave us space to live and made us one of their own, Jews made sure that they gave back to the community.
It's very interesting. You mentioned there was no anti-Semitism. Jews were persecuted almost everywhere they went for 2,000 years. What is it about India? Is it maybe it's about the Hindu religion? Maybe it's about the Indian culture that made it that there was no anti-Semitism?
It is. This is what I would like to believe. I believe different people have different theories, but this is my theory. Hinduism in general, because India is a Hindu majority country, Hinduism believes in collectivism and what's the word? I'm forgetting. Inclusivity. Did I say it right? Inclusivity? Yes. Right. And the fabric of the community there's a reason why there are so many minorities live in India and thrive in India. I'm not just talking about Jews. I'm talking about Zoroastrians who fled Iran and came to India, right? You have so many Muslims who live there. After Hindus, the Muslim community is the biggest community in India. You have the Sikhs and the Jains and the Buddhists. You have people from Tibet, and it goes on. So I would like to give credit to the Hindu community for welcoming each and everybody with open arms, regardless of their religiosity and regardless of where you come from.
And you mentioned that they had the Jews had equal rights. What did that mean in real life?
It meant that you could run for president and being a prime minister, or you could go to the Ivy League of India, of the Indian institutes, right? It's not like, oh, you're Jewish and are an outsider. You don't have these rights. I have a citizenship that is equivalent to somebody who is Hindu, born and raised in India.
What is the Malida ceremony? And what does it look like?
Wow, it's one of my favorite events of all times. So again, there are like different theories of like Malida, like how it came into being. I'll explain a few. Back at the time, so one theory goes, Prophet Aliyah Nabi, to honor him, there was this Malida ceremony that came into being where at every auspicious event, could be a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, if a couple is getting married, if you're buying a house, or just, I don't know, to like bless the community, you have this Malida ceremony where everybody's invited. The Malida plate is the most delicious thing that you'll ever eat, and it's vegan. And there's a reason why, and I'll get to it. So it's made from flattened rice, sugar, desiccated coconut, and dry fruits. And then you pair them with either 5 or 7 fruits. And as Beni Israelis, you definitely have dates and bananas. Dates because very important. And then banana because it was like the regional fruit from where we come from in Mumbai and Thane. And the second theory goes back at the time, like everybody, actually there's also a third one that came to, that I completely forgot about. But the second one is, how everybody has a potluck dinner, right? And then everybody gets something from their culture. Now in India, you can't eat beef, or at least the area that I come from, you can't eat beef because cow is holy. Now you cannot offend the people that took you in. What do? You come up with this dish. And that eventually became a part of auspicious events. And the third one is Malida is also considered as, back in the time, we used to have offerings in our temples. So Malida is often also seen as an offering at the Holy Temple.
Very interesting. Walk us through an Indian Jewish wedding. What do you think would shock people the most? And why do people say that the Indian Jewish weddings are the most unforgettable weddings?
They are, because they are a combination of the Indian and Jewish cultures. One of the best combinations ever. And also they can be long sometimes, but I mean, if you have the time, and which I think people should make time for it, it is a great experience. I mean, in addition to the wedding itself, we have a few ceremonies that happen during the Indian Jewish wedding. If you've heard of the henna ceremony, a lot of Moroccans also do it, but we have professional henna artists that are called to actually sit down and like do art on the bride's hands, and then anybody and everybody can do it. And then you have the haldi ceremony. Haldi means turmeric or turmeric. So you make a turmeric paste, and then you apply, like the community applies it to the bride and the bridegroom because it's meant for good luck. And also like turmeric is meant to give the couple a glow. And then of course, there's also something called Sangeet. Sangeet is an event where everybody actually practices to perform. So there are people that hire choreographers to choreograph dances from Indian cinema. And sometimes there's a competition between the families of the bride and the bridegroom. So dancing and performing is part of the Indian culture that the Indian Jewish community adopted and made it one of their own.
Now, in Europe, Jewish success created resentment, but in India, it actually created admiration. Explain why?
Because, again, I'm not going to talk for the other Jews living in the diaspora, but in India specifically, you need to understand because India took so many people in, the same people that were taken in started to ask for things that are unforgivable or just try to conquer, okay? Now, Jews were like, we don't need anything, just let us be. And they exceeded those expectations by giving back to the community. And also because a lot of our Jewish community members, not just Indian, but across the world, were known for Nobel Prize winners and doing really well, let's say in Hollywood, or could be doing well in, I don't know, politics, banking industry, or as entrepreneurs, are like, oh my gosh, Jews have the brain and they really know how to use it and how to use it for business. Also, when they see Israel, they are like, whoa, you guys are awesome. Because we love the fact that you guys are a small nation of 10 million people and are still able to come up with top-notch defense and cybersecurity technology. How? People wonder, coming up with cherry tomatoes and USB disks and all these innovations with such in small, we are just 10 million and in the country, and I think about 0.2% of the world population, but our contributions supersede everything else. So they're like, wow, you guys are awesome. There's so much to learn from you guys. Yeah. And also Indians are very hardworking. Also Indian innovations are for example, the number 0 was actually, I don't know, discovered or invented by an Indian person. And there are other innovations that come from India. But again, we don't get enough credit for our hard work. They really understand what means to be an underdog, what means to be conquered, what means to be building from scratch and thriving together. They really understand that.
So a lot of what India has gone through, they see Israel as like a reflection of themselves, basically.
Yes, because also if you see parallelly, I mean, both countries were under the British Empire. They both gained independence a year apart. India 1947, Israel 1948. Also, both countries are surrounded by very friendly neighbors that are trying to get them. And we also have shared values. So there are a lot of similarities, and that's why it just seems like a natural partnership. There's also another reason why. If you see fundamentally in the religious books, Hindus don't need exclusive access to us for salvation, or we are not the wrongdoers of God. So faith-wise, we're just separate. We are not mentioned anywhere. We don't affect them in any way. Yeah. So that also plays a major role. When you're completely separate and have nothing to do with each other or done nothing, there's less chance to just hate each other. That's what I think. India it's very diverse. If you go to North India, it's very different from South India. It's very different from Midwest India. Language changes every kilometer. We joke about it, and so does the cuisine. Wow. So we're used to diversity. So the more the merrier, because we learn from each other. And I think it's good to have diversity because I think we play to each other's strengths and then create something awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, growing up, was it hard to make friends for you, or not so much?
It really depends. Wow. So I grew up as a timid child. I wasn't the most extrovert. Compared to now, I'm very social. As the elder daughter, just me and my sister, I felt like I had much more responsibility. So I got to doing the responsible thing that I should be doing. I mean, in terms of friendship, it was yes and no, because I felt like people were curious and then I was their only Indian Jewish friend. So it was nice for them to have me. But I only made really, really good friends when I actually studied my MBA. I mean, I have two school friends that are still in touch with me, and I'm so grateful for them. I had one best friend from another city, but I would only see her during summer vacations and Diwali vacations. That's it. So I didn't have a big friend circle growing up, but I had a group of friends during my MBA. But that was when I was about 22.
Were you into Bollywood, the Indian cinema? Did you watch that?
I believe we joke about this all the time. There are two religions in India: cricket and Indian cinema. And then, of course, the religion you're born into. Indian cinema is a part of our lives the day you're born. Yeah, Indians, okay, let me correct that. We don't use the word Bollywood because when you think of Bollywood, you think of Hindi cinema. And because India is huge, you also have cinema from different regions. So collectively, we call it Indian cinema. Wow, Indian cinema is it has such an effect on us that I don't know how to explain this. It comes up daily. If there's a popular dialogue that went viral, it comes up in conversations with friends and family, or examples. And then of course, even in weddings, all the dancing happens mostly on the music that is played in movies. We had a couple of Indian Jews that were part of Indian cinema also. Like, for example, the first Miss India then actually launched her own production house and then produced a couple of movies. And then we had a bunch of other people who were actors in movies as well. And then actually in school, we were not encouraged to sing and dance from movie songs. We were encouraged to create our own, which was very good, by the way, because I think once you because movies can also be very unrealistic, and they wanted to make sure that it did not become a part of us completely, because eventually out of school, we're going to do that anyway. So they wanted to foster that, relationship without movie stuff in school. But I love dancing on Bollywood songs. I also teach some classes here, and they're mostly sold out.
Wow.
Yeah, people really enjoy it.
Is there a difference between Western movies and Indian movies in terms of the content and in terms of the things that they show?
Yes, because Indian movies are very dramatic and can come across as very unrealistic. Most movies are often seen as musicals because we will have 2-minute, 3-minute songs in it. That's why sometimes the movies can be like 2 hours, 30 minutes long, or 3 hours long sometimes. There's so many songs in it, but that is the essence of Bollywood. You have a lot of singing and dancing, also very dramatic, which I absolutely love because, sometimes I know movies have so much impact on you, but it is a great way to just switch off your brain and just focus on entertainment. And then really explains what entertainment is. But there has been a lot of difference in movies that were made in the 80s and 90s and the movies that are being produced right now. Gen Z, they are like, we want more realistic movies. This doesn't make sense to us. Whereas my father, he would enjoy, all the singing and dancing and the hero flying across to hit the villain and stuff like that. I also enjoy that kind of stuff. I think it's amazing. But I think the type of movies that are being made are now changing because of the generation that is consuming it.
When did you realize that your own story was rare, that you were, kind of unique?
So when I made Aliyah, which was in 2020, just before COVID, I realized that there wasn't enough Indian representation in Israel. And you'd be surprised to know there are about 80,000 Indian Jews that live in Israel. And I was like, where is the representation on social media? I don't see it. Right? Because when you come to a new country, you're trying to look for things that are familiar. You're trying to look for things that remind you of home. And I did not find that. And I'm like, this needs to change. What can we do? We can either complain or do something about it. And at the back of my mind, I always wanted to have my own YouTube channel. And back in the day, 10 years ago, I was obsessed with YouTube, but I didn't know what to talk about. I couldn't cook. I didn't know how to do makeup. Didn't have a boyfriend to have a couples channel. I'm like, who's gonna listen to an Indian Jew? We're just 4,000 left in India. Who's gonna be my audience? So I took that chance when I came to Israel. I'm like, you know what? You never know. So I started to make videos, and to my surprise, I have an audience that wants to learn about Israel, but it is also important for my audience to have Indian representation in Israel. So that's how it came into being. And I named it Moses in Israel because my last name is Moses, so it made sense. And also, the OG Moses never made it to Israel. He put in so much work. He, led our people out of Egypt. And he didn't make it to Israel. Like, such a shame. So to honor him and to honor the country that kept my people safe, I decided to launch the channel Moses in Israel and talk about India and Israel. And yeah, it's been very successful. People are very curious about what's happening. I also show a side that people often don't show about Israel, because Israel is very popular for being a war zone or known for technology and defense. They don't know anything apart from that. The culture here is so unique and so rich that it gets overlooked. So I was like, you know what? I can do that because I breathe culture. I really enjoy and thrive off of culture. This is something I can show to people from the country I come from. And then I realized there are so many similarities, and there are so many similarities being an Indian Jew. So why not establish that relationship? And then I realized this became my mission to bridge India and Israel, two ancient civilizations that are very, very similar in culture and have shared values and shared challenges. And I felt like I was the right person to do it. I'm And I welcome other people to do it as well. But it was a calling for me.
I'm sure you get a lot of feedback and a lot of people reaching out to you from India. What does that kind of look like?
Wow. So I think a lot of people want to learn more about IDF because they're like, you guys are small in number, but how do you whoop everybody's asses? They want to know. The second thing, I get a lot of questions that are like, can Indians serve in the IDF? And I'm like, whoa, that's taking it to the next level. And I'm like, you know what? First, serve in the Indian Army. If you're in India, you should be serving the Indian Army. A lot of people want to collaborate with Israeli technology companies because there's such great tech coming from Israel. They want to make sure that they can either collaborate or partner, or at least, I don't know, there are ways they can use India as a market to scale up or to test because we have a big audience in India, right? But you'd be surprised there's such great technology also coming from India because during COVID, there was like a boom, entrepreneurial boom that happened. And then Shark Tank India went viral. So everybody is now wanting to have a startup and wants to do something. But in terms of AI and cyber and defense, India and Israel are also cooking something in terms of partnership. There is a fund that has been, I think, also recently launched by the Israel Innovation Authority. If there is an Israeli company who wants to but like reach out to India in terms of market or, I don't know, establish a manufacturing unit, they have a fund for it. So these things are coming up, which is great because it really helps entrepreneurs take the next step. Because India it's huge. So you can like lose sight. You don't know what's happening with 1.5 billion people. Like, who do I reach out to? So a lot of people reach out to me asking if I can make those connections.
You're like the representative of India in Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes people call me the cultural ambassador. Sometimes they call me, oh my gosh, you're like the real ambassador. I'm like, thank you, but I'm not the real. We have an ambassador. So yeah. Mhm.
What's the first moment in Israel where you thought, wow, I'm not in India anymore? Like, what were some of the differences between Israeli and Indian culture, that Israeli chutzpah, whatever it was? What were some of the things that stood out to you?
I think the first thing that came to mind is, as Indians were so polite, and then you have Israelis coming straight up, no filter, talking to you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this, like, I realized that I was more pampered in India than I am in Israel. That's why I call India my motherland, because, like a mother pampers you, nurtures you. And then I call Israel my fatherland because father is strict. It gives you tough love. That's exactly what Israel did to me. So when I came here, I was like, why are people so rude? And then I realized it's chutzpah. But then sometimes I feel like there's a thin line between, having chutzpah and being arrogant, right? So sometimes I do struggle with that. But I'm like, you know what? I'm a little more Israeli now. I think every passing year, I'm becoming more Israeli. That scares me a little bit. But I think it's for the best. The next thing was food. I really struggled with food. I'm like, where's the masala? Why does everything taste so bland? Like what? And like I was so sick of eating hummus. I just couldn't. I'm like, if this is what people eat every day, you guys are missing out. Because Indian food, there's like the cuisine itself, it's so diverse. And you have ranging from sweet to savory to spicy. And I'm like, oh my God, I really struggled. And then I missed chai. You don't get good chai in Israel. But then I became lactose intolerant in Israel. So I had to give up on chai. And now I have coffee with oat milk.
Almost the best.
Yeah. And then I believe, also in terms of like my daily outfit, like in India, I would wear something that is more Indian. I would wear kurtas and saris. It's very on a regular basis every day. But if I'm wearing this here, and if I would walk on the street, they would say, this is a great costume. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is not a costume. This is my life. This is a way of life. So, and because so many people ask me that so many times, I stopped wearing Indian clothes regularly. Now, only wear them on special occasions if I'm going for a wedding or if I'm going to the embassy or an official event for Independence Day or Republic Day. So I miss wearing my Indian clothes.
What's the funniest or the most ridiculous thing that Israelis assumed about you because you're Indian?
Well, I have so many for you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's start for the first one. I think first one, they're like, you're not Indian, you're Latina. And I'm like, what do you mean? You're not dark. You're not as dark as as an Indian should be. And then I realized they're stereotyping me, because usually when you would think of when in Israel, I could be wrong for other countries, but in Israel they think if if you have if you are dusky or you have a darker skin tone, you're Indian. But they don't realize in India you have different shades of brown. So you could be caramel, coffee, honey, or chai. So you have fair-skinned Indians and then you have dark-skinned Indians. So I think that is something that I really had to take my time and explain without getting angry. Because I realized it is not coming from a place of being racist, but it is coming from a place of being ignorant. So I had to change my tone when I explained these things. Second was the head nod. They're like, why aren't you doing that? Like, if I tell them I'm Indian, the first thing they do is, to aap kaise ho? And I'm like, no, like, you have to stop. We don't do this. Like, we do it, but not like they show it in movies. Indians get stereotyped so heavily, and some things are true. I'm not denying it, but I mean, if you're gonna meet an Indian and do this, they're gonna be like, "What are you doing? You look stupid." Or people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're good at math," and I'm like, "I suck at math. I hate it." Because usually people think, oh, like Indians are good at engineering and mathematics. And I'm like, yes, all of it is true, but I'm an exception. And then they just assume that I cook delicious Indian food. And I'm like, I hate the kitchen. And my mother does. But I cook Indian food, but not as good as my mother. So I think these are some things that people in Israel like sometimes either struggle to understand or just like don't know enough. So I try my best to explain as much as I can.
What was harder, leaving India or adapting to Israeli society?
Leaving India.
Was there something that surprised you about Israeli society? Like, let's talk about some of the positives of Israeli society.
Let's talk about it. Yes. I think Israelis, I love the fact that Israelis are travelers. It's just in the culture. I love it. In India, we were not encouraged to travel. I don't know, it could be different because I was raised as a daughter. So we had a lot more restrictions than my male friends. So I don't know if it's like a gender thing or a culture thing, but I think Israelis just doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman are encouraged to travel, right? And the army service is mandatory. So they make it a point that after the army, they travel either to the West or their popular destination is India. So I love that. Second, nobody shames you for your choices and the way you look. You know, I mean, I had a hard time because I feel like in India, the way you look and the way you present, I think it's everywhere, but in India, it's given extra attention. So I just felt like I couldn't be myself 100%. When in Israel, because of being straightforward and having chutzpah, I felt like I could rip all band-aids and I can be 100% myself. And actually, my Indian friends now struggle to accept this part of me because they're like, oh my gosh, you're too straightforward for us. But I'm like, that's the best part because you're not beating around the bush and you get to the point and let's move on. You know what I mean? And then I love the fact, again, now in Israel, I'm an Ola. So I'm I'm not a new immigrant, but I'm an immigrant. So I feel like Olim Chadashim or immigrants and Israelis who have been like, let's say, third generation, fourth generation, they have different perspectives on things. Because, let's say, they're second and third generation, I feel like they are actively looking into connecting with their roots that they think they lost. Whereas Olim, I feel like sometimes we take it for granted because it's so near and dear to us that we don't celebrate as much. So I think Israelis, also because of the current situation or the past few years, I feel like it doesn't matter if you come from Morocco or Ethiopia or India, everybody has traditions and cultures. You feel like you belong somewhere. It's not like oh, my mother's Moroccan and my dad's Indian. Oh, amazing. You have two amazing cultures. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the concept of just like family, I love the fact, okay, so if there was a spectrum of warm to cold cultures, Israel comes in the middle. Because in India, it can be a bit too much, which I absolutely love, but sometimes can be too much. I love the fact that in Israel, you have boundaries, but you're also like a community.
Very interesting. How did October 7th change you personally?
I believe for the longest time, I was living in a bubble. Because I grew up in India, I grew up with so much love and acceptance that that was my reality. And when I came to Israel and I started to make content, I started to see some antisemitism online, but it didn't affect me as much because I have a strong following that support me. So it didn't bother me as much. But on October 7th, I think it popped my bubble so hard. I don't think I can ever go back to where I came from. That people are out to get the Jewish community. Doesn't matter if you want peace. I mean, I feel like we really want peace, but if the other side does not, it's hard. I also feel like as a community felt like everybody was mourning. As a country, I think everybody was mourning. I haven't felt despair and sadness so strongly like I felt on October 7th or like ever since then. I feel like people are still like recovering from it, right? Because, and like people saw it on social media. We used to talk about, we still talk about the Holocaust, right? There was no social media back at the time. Things were streamed on Telegram and Facebook. People can't unsee that. It was hard. It definitely was hard. And I was not even in the country. So I was scared for my family because I was actually on a retreat. And a bunch of people, I saw like 25 missed calls and like 10 messages. I'm like, what happened? And then I see Israel is under attack. My sister was serving at the time. She was at home and she was called to the base because, everybody had to go. I felt so guilty for being out of Israel that time. I wasn't even the IDF, but I just felt guilty for being outside the country. I felt like my family is there. My community is like going through such bad times. And I'm like here, like having fun. I booked I just wanted to come home. Thank God I booked El Al. So it brought me home because other flights got canceled. And then me as an Indian person, who grew up in India, you don't grow up with sirens. It's not normal. Or we just didn't know the protocol of what happens when a siren goes off, right? So we had to do that in action. I felt like physically, the trauma stored in my neck and my back more. You know what they say in Eastern philosophies, your trauma translates into physical disease. It's actually happened to a lot of people. Everybody either has some or the other problem or is just lost mental peace at this point. And I started to take therapy. It's growing up, it was not looked as an option for recovery, but I had to change that mindset. And I'm like, if see myself living in this country, this is going to be my reality for the rest of my life, which means I have to take active effort to heal and recover from this. And it has affected different people in different ways. I emotionally shut off for some time. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. And then some of my friends left the country. And these are friends that are very dear to me. They're like some of my friends that I actually made that I first made in Israel, and then I'm losing them because a war broke out. So I had to recover. Yeah.
Your family experienced a missile strike, right? 50 meters away from their home during the war with Iran. What was that moment like?
That was extremely scary because can I narrate to you what exactly happened in short? So the war had started. Iran was sending like drones and missiles. And now I used to live separately, not with my parents. To give you context, in India, if I was in India and if I wasn't married, I would still be living with my parents, which is the culture. But I live separately, but I didn't have a safety room. So my father suggested that I should come over and sleep because they had a safety room. And if a siren goes off at 3 a.m., you don't have to run out on the street. You can just run to the safety room in the apartment. So me and my sister were sharing a room and my parents' bedroom was the safety room. Now, around 4 o'clock, the alarm goes off. I kid you not. Me and my sister were being lazy that day. We did not want to run to the shelter. I'm like, the Iron Dome is going to take care of it. My father pulled us out. The second he closed the door, boom, the door flew on my sister because she was sitting right in front of it. It hit her hand, her shoulder and her hand. So she was like, she ducked, but she was like this. And for a second, I thought we were on the other side. We were gone. I went deaf for a few seconds because of the impact. It was so loud. We thought the missile fell in the apartments. So we were struggling to get out because my mother thought there was going to be a big hole and we are going to fall down. But then we realized that it fell 50 meters, like in the parking lot right in front of the building. But the impact was so big that it affected like around the neighborhood at 1 kilometer radius. And then the trouble actually starts is because now you don't have a place to live or sleep, or at least my parents did not. And we had to get everything out in time because we don't know it. Another siren could go off any second. So we got everything. I took them to my apartment, and now we're like, what to do? Because where they're gonna stay? Three people. They can be, I can temporarily give them, because I had a roommate at the time. We spent an entire day, and luckily the municipality, the Tel Aviv municipality, made arrangements for people who were displaced at the time. And then it went on for, I think, another 10 days or something. And then, but now where to go? Because now the apartment is destroyed. The landlord is going to take some time to fix it. They took about 2 months to find another apartment, which was also very, very difficult because I think about, I don't know the exact numbers, but like 500 or to 600 people had lost their apartment. Everybody's looking for another apartment at this point. So it's very competitive. The prices are hiked because now, there's more demand than supply. So yeah, it was very, I think it took a lot for me as an older child because I felt responsible but we're still alive. so yeah. Yeah, it was, I feel like God gave us a second chance. And that's why that really like set my mission like even more. Like it was more strong. My content changed a little bit after that also. But it was a life-changing experience.
Are you seeing a lot of messages of solidarity after October 7th from India?
Yes. A lot of people said, fly back to India. And I'm like, no, I can't just leave everything and fly back. I now have a community. I've built a life for myself. I have friends. You have a job. I mean, thank you. I really appreciate the love, but I can't just leave everything and go. And also my parents' apartment is affected. We still have things in there. You can't just leave everything and go. Okay. I need to say two things. Yes, in India, but for some reason, and I've also discussed this on my podcast with my father, that we were a little bit disappointed that people from the community did not reach out to help us when we were affected here. A lot of people reached out in India, living in India, but very few people reached out living in Israel. So that was a little bit disappointing because, I mean, if I would see somebody in this state, there are a few ways of helping people. You either physically go and help them, right? Take them to the doctor, help them with an appointment, or financially help them. And I actually had raised a financial campaign so that they could help because they lost a lot of things and it would cost a lot of money. Or you share the story. Simple. It doesn't take money to share somebody's story. And none of these things were supported by people that I expected would or should be supporting. Yes, people in India were like, Yalla, come fly back. We'll take care of you. But at the same time, people living here, I had high expectations from them because we are in the country. And Israel is small. I'm like maybe 20 minutes away from you. So I saw the difference.
Well, maybe you could leave us with a final message. If somebody watches this and learns one thing about India, Jews, Israel, what do you think that would be?
Well, first of all, if you're not following my content, you're missing out. India is Israel's biggest ally on the East. And I feel like Israel focuses a lot of its advocacy on the West. And it's about time that we focus on the East, or at least India to begin with. India and Israel have a long history. And India is one of the countries that kept Jews safe. You have a living example. If you want to learn about Indian culture, it's beautiful, but you'd be surprised because there are so many similarities with the Jewish culture. I would invite, if you're Jewish, Jews living in the diaspora, or Israel, or Israelis, go to India. Get in touch with me if you don't know where to begin. I will guide you. But I would suggest go explore India. It is nothing what you see on social media, because I know sometimes social media can hype the wrong things. Some things are right, I'm not going to deny, but I think you should have a first-hand experience in India. And for Indians who are watching me right now, I want you to know, in spite of what you see on social media about being a war zone and, the crazy things that that you see, it is safe. I promise you. Again, a living example. I've been living here for 6 years. And again, if you don't know where to start, get in touch with me. And I really, really hope that the India-Israel partnership only grows because I know we're building a foundation at the moment. And I love the fact that Daniel decided to venture into the India-Israel space. It has so much potential. So thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that Daniel sometime, if he has a chance to visit India, he would.
Definitely would. Definitely after this conversation.
Yes, love that.
Thank you. Everybody, please subscribe to Moses in Israel. And I want to thank you for your time, your beautiful insights on India and Israel. And I learned a lot. I'm sure the viewers will learn a lot as well. So thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
And I wish you.
I really appreciate
Thank
your time and considering me to be one of your guests. So I really appreciate it.
If you have a 401k or an IRA, please listen. Gold is at record highs. What many people don't know is this: you can move part of your retirement money legally and without tax penalties into physical gold you actually own. Alpha Omega Gold helps you do this through a gold IRA. Your gold is real, it is stored safely, it is in your name. Learn more at ao.gold/stand. Alpha Omega Gold is our sponsor, and they proudly stand with Israel.